turf services and garden creations before merging them into Villwocks Outdoor Living in 2007. Karen, who will speak after Mike, has over 40 years in gardening experience in Southwest Michigan, including owning her own business, Glorious Gardens, and now managing both the Berrien Springs and Sawyer Garden locations for Villwocks Outdoor Living. Thanks for having us here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming and having your meeting and letting me talk a little bit about stuff that I love. The only time, just to clarify, the only time Karen will speak is when I ask her something I don't know, or you ask a question that I don't know and I nod at her. So she likes playing that role that she's playing right now, and we appreciate her for that. So I grew up in this Berrien Springs area, went to school here, graduated from the Andrews University horticulture department in landscape management, landscape design, turf grass management. Left school. When I got done with school, I started working there full time on the Arboretum and Grounds department, and then became the director and spent 10 years as the director of the grounds department Arboretum at Andrews University. During that time, I was growing my own business, always planning on, some type of entrepreneurial spirit that I would end up being part of. And so I left Andrews in 2014 officially and kind of started my full-time journey into the horticulture world. And that's when I bought the other business in 2014 that you mentioned, Turf Services, which was an irrigation company in Southwest Michigan since like 1970. And then in 2017, I bought this property with a lot of dreams in mind of what we could do here, and it's a lot of things have happened very quickly over the years. But we opened in 2018 for the most part with a kind of a cottage garden center that was on the other side where our bulk material area was. 2020, a lot of things happened in 2020, but people started to think about gardening and stuff happening at their home and things like that. So we had a really good boom, as far as in the independent garden center industry and things that we had. And so that reinvestment that was made with the 24,000 square foot state-of-the-art greenhouse that was put up, and then following year, we added this space over here, and every year it's something new. What we're doing out here right now is we've just seen a great demand for our perennials and shrubs, and we had such a limited space for it here. Our annuals were kind of, like growing in here, trying to push everything else out. And so our perennial area is now all of this area. And so we'll have just a wide, expanse of perennials that we'll be able to have. The area that we're constructing out there will be another shade structure, which is like this one that's out here, which is just metal poles with shade cloth on it. And but it provides plants with things that they need, like a little bit of shade. And so that's going to be a huge 60 by 180 foot shade structure that'll have our shrubs in there. We'll be enhancing some other operational things, like a little bit better bagged area for where we house bagged material, more bagged product, with the Costa Main line that we have, and Happy Frog and Sungrow and all our mulches and stuff like that, and a little easier way of accessing it for our customers. And so one thing that most of my employees can count on, that change is something that happens regularly here. And we hope that it's for the better. And a lot of what we've done is to enhance our garden center experience over the last few years. So we appreciate certainly all of our customers and clubs like this, because this is kind of what we like to do. We like to reinvest in the communities, that we are part of, and be able to, provide product for them, but maybe some knowledge and a space to come enjoy. And we are open year round. So if you ever are interested in the winter, when the doldrums of Southwest Michigan can get the best of you, a simple walk in here and enjoying some of our houseplants and tropicals and succulents and some of the things that we're doing to grow that product, and kind of see what you might come here to buy in May and in June, as opposed to, we're not asking you to take it home in January or February, but by all means, come and walk around. No obligation to buy, for sure. Just smile and enjoy the warmth. So that being said, you asked me to speak about seedlings and succulents. And so I'm made an assumption that seedlings was going to be its own speech and category, and succulents was going to be separate. So that's how I put it together for you. So I'm going to start with seedlings. So every garden starts small, right? Really small. Whether it's what we do here to get things growing, or even some of our vendors that grow things, many things start from seed. Seedlings are the most fragile and most important stage of plant life. And what we do in the first 2 to 4 weeks sets the stage for what that's going to be like, whether it's in a seasonal category like our annuals and veggies, or it's in longer, categories like our perennials and things like that. Root strength, plant structure, and yield and longevity all are important in this first phase. Strong seedlings don't happen by accident, they're built. And so how do we build that? So what is a seedling? A seedling is a plant that's in its early stage after germination. Key points are our first leaves. That's kind of that energy storage. And then we've got when our real photosynthesis begins, when those first leaves really start to emerge, which are our true leaves. And then we run in like to the hidden engine, which is the roots. We can't see them. Now I could pull out a plug and we could see them, but we're not seeing them like in the ground and what they're doing. So even though we can't see the roots, we have to manage them. So if the roots struggle, the plant it seldom recovers. And when we see that happen, we get things that we're starting over. In many cases when that happens. So there's 4 foundations of strong seedlings. They need intense light immediately, and so that's one of the hard things to kind of get sometimes, because if you're starting your veggies by seed, you really are kind of struggling to get them enough light unless you've got a great environment, to grow them in, like a greenhouse that can magnify even sunlight, and get that heat. So you've got to do, things to help that. If you don't, they're going to stretch, they're going to become leggy and weak, and I'm sure we've all seen that, and they'll flop over. So we can get them by a south-facing window to start, because that's where our sun angle is. Grow lights, and we're wanting those grow lights like 2 to 3 inches above the plants. We're trying to achieve like 12 to 16 hours of sun is what our goal is to get them to succeed. And then the light builds structure. So when we have that light, we're building structure, in our plants. So water, I know that's everybody's favorite topic, right? And so we got to keep the soil moist, but not wet. And so when these seeds are coming up, like our biggest risk, and it's in the root, is that dampening off of the root, the crown in that area, if we're keeping them consistently wet. So it's moist, not wet. Best practices, if we can, would be watering from the bottom. Not always really possible in a lot of environments, but we do need to have good drainage. So watering from the bottom, like in a greenhouse environment, there's water tables, you run water through. It's really the most efficient way of watering, because we're not wasting it through evapotranspiration as much, like over the top. And so the plants are actually sucking it up. It's driving roots down. You flood the water table, you release the water out, and we've got good drainage in there as well, and then good airflow. So we want to be able to manage that airflow so that we can have that drying out happen. Too much love kills more seedlings than neglect. Okay, so I know that we, watering is an act of love, right? And so we care for them, but too much love, right, is not good. And then soil. So I had a professor at Andrews that was our soil science teacher. And if you ever said the word dirt around him, there was very serious repercussions to that statement, okay? And so we say soil, all right? So soil is not dirt. And in this case, it really matters. Obviously, I'm plugging this Coast to Maine product right here, but it's about getting a good seed starter type of soil, so that we don't have garden soil. We're getting good. It needs to be sterile, right? That's a big thing, because that disease and dampening off, and then light and airy. So we want that soil, it's like peat moss and perlite and vermiculite and all those things in there that's going to allow it to be really receptive to root growth and root structure.